submitted something to a contest and you're like, I wonder what they're thinking. Like, why didn't it place higher? Or why didn't it place at all? Why am I getting the notes that I'm getting? Well, maybe I can help you out with that. I've read as a reader for a screenwriting contest for the last few years, and there are certain things that people to do, consistently that really hurt their chances of advancing, and there's things they do that help their chances of advancing. So I'd like to share some of the things that I've noticed myself, things that personally I enjoy reading, or when I see it, I know that this probably isn't one that's going to advance. So quickly, let's run through. There's going to be ones based on the actual submission itself, qualitative, and then there's quantitative issues. I mean, it's all subjective, but these are the ones that I've noticed that can really help you out a lot. The first thing for the submission itself is make sure you attach the correct file. You'd be surprised how many times as a reader I've just opened the attachment and it's not what it's supposed to be. It's not even a script. It could be an early version of an outline. It could be some sort of attachment, like just the title page itself. Just make sure that when you're attaching the file, it may sound simple, but you don't want to waste your submission money and not end up even attaching the correct file to have that reviewed. The second thing about your submission, make sure you read the guidelines and submit it the way they're requesting it. Just make sure that you do it to the format, do it to a T. Just make sure you double read it, triple read it. Make sure that what you're submitting is to the category, to the format, the title page is correct, anything like that might get you immediately disqualified. You want to avoid that. Make sure that your screenplay is in the proper format. I know there's questions about what's proper, what's acceptable, but you just want the basic conventions of, screenwriting to be there. If I open a script and it's not formatted correctly, or it's formatted like a novel, or it's, the wrong margins, wrong spacing, I usually know that I'm dealing with an amateur. And personally, I still try to read through it and give my opinion on the story itself, but there's a lot of readers that won't stick with it. And also, it's usually a sign that by the time you get to page 2, 3, 4, 5, it's not going to be good. And to piggyback on the proper format of the file itself, make sure the title page is formatted the way they request in their guidelines. Some contests don't want you to put your name. Some contests don't want you to put contact information. Some want you to. Some don't care. Just make sure you're formatting it the correct way, because no matter how good your script is, if you're not following the proper guidelines, it's likely to get disqualified. Okay, number 4, when it deals with submissions, make sure you're not including versions of your script that have edits, revisions, notes. Like, I've seen it more than once, and I still read through it. I still judge them based on content, but it just looks amateur. There's often entire pages that were from previous drafts that are in there. It just looks bad. I know a lot of people probably won't finish a script or will put it aside because it's not 100% correct. I still try to read them myself. It's usually a sign of the author not taking the time. And if they're not going to take the time to do the proper submissions and make sure that their file is in the best possible condition for a reader or for a producer, chances are they're not taking the time to write the proper script or learn the proper format. And the last thing, when it deals with just submissions, regardless of the content of your script, myself, I don't care if it's based on your life story. In this time, I'm a script reader. I just want a good story. And 9 times out of 10, and that may be a generous estimate, 9 times out of 10, if it's based on a true story, based on a family member's story, it's not good. It's just not interesting to other people. And I hate to say that like that, but it's true. So, and a lot of times, and again, I hate to put it this way, if you're putting on there, the greatest birthday ever is your title by John Smith, based on the life of John Smith, based on the book written by John Smith, the autobiographical story, and then you got your contact information on John Smith. It's like, okay, you really think this moment in your life was amazing? And it might be, and that's the thing about it. Like, it may be a great story, it may be worth sharing, it might make a great movie. A lot of movies are based on real things that have happened. But as a reader, it's like a red flag to me. I've seen it a bunch of times. I know other people have seen it more. Just don't include that. Just if it's based on a book that you've written, unless you sold like 10,000 copies and you've got a built-in fan base, that's not going to help you. It's going to hurt you. And lastly, a fix for a lot of these. Like, how would you avoid a lot of these mistakes? Simple enough. Read the guidelines of the contest or the production company that you're submitting to, and make sure your title page is formatted correctly to the way they want it. It probably doesn't want your name and contact information on it. Make sure the script itself is formatted correctly in the conventional screenwriting, way, that it looks like a screenplay, that it is the story you want to submit, not a different story. And that's another thing. Make sure it's the correct file. Just triple check it. Just say, before you hit the submit, that send button, make sure it's what you want to send and not a random file that was next to it in your directory. Okay, that brings us to our quantitative errors that I see often in screenplay submissions as a reader. And the biggest one by far is spelling and grammar. I realize there's a lot of people who fight about this and say, well, the story is what's most important. If I have a couple typos, it's not a big deal. And the truth is, if it's an amazing script and they can get through it, yes, that's true. But you are putting yourself out there as a professional writer, as someone who wants to do this professionally. And if there's errors, spelling, grammar, even like historical errors in the first page or two, you're really off to the wrong foot. Like, I mean, even if there's no more spelling errors the rest of the way, for some reason, it just like sticks in our head as a reader. Like, this person's making mistakes. I'm going to keep an extra, antenna aware for that. I'm going to be looking for that now. And again, if at the end of the 100 and so pages, there's not that many errors, or it's not a big deal, it didn't distract from the story and the story's amazing, yeah, I'm still gonna recommend it. That gets past me. But again, 9 times out of 10, if you're seeing spelling and grammar errors, that's a person who's either not taking it seriously, or they haven't done their homework, they haven't done their revisions, they haven't done script swaps, and the script's going to show that. It's not going to make it to the next level. All right, for the second quantitative error, I just recently saw this one. I had a script to read for a contest. It was a good story, but they filled about 35, 40 pages with maybe 15 pages of actual story. There was too many characters. I believe this was a pilot for an hour drama TV show that they were requesting to a contest. And I counted 32 characters named. And every character had a small paragraph about them. It's way too much. But you want to keep your named cast and the details about them as, I don't want to say as minimal as possible, but as least distracting and as necessary as possible, especially when it comes to a pilot. Think about the pilots, if you've seen, and you probably have if you want to be a professional writer, Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, the named major characters, and there's a few, especially in Breaking Bad, but you're nowhere near 32. 32 is way too many. A lot of the characters we don't meet until later, second, third, fourth episodes. Same thing with Walking Dead. I mean, the first episode, it's mostly Rick, Morgan, Dwayne, and then Glenn's voice and zombies. That's really the most of the first episode. We see who we're following and we follow them. Breaking Bad, we see the family, we see his brother-in-law, we see, Jesse, and we see where the story's going to go, but we're not introducing everybody yet. We're not introducing every villain we're going to see. And this story, if I took out all those character introductions, would have been about 10, 15 minutes of screen time. And I have no idea who the main character was supposed to be. For my next one, dialogue. It's always a big topic of discussion is, do you want it realistic? Do you want it hyper realistic? Do you want it, what I mean? But that's the biggest thing. I think dialogue is really the canary in the coal mine, as some might say. If the dialogue's bad, chances are the script is bad. I mean, the story's probably not structured right. The people probably aren't acting naturally. It's probably going to come off as phony or forced. Watch your dialogue, try to make it natural, try to make it necessary. There's a lot of times where you can show a character, show an action, show something, show a lot about the story, move the story forward with no dialogue. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I had from watching Better Call Saul. There's a lot of scenes, especially I think in the later seasons, I could be misremembering it, but in the later seasons, in the beginning, like teasers, they would show you something, usually like no dialogue, and then you'd see by the end of the episode like why that meant something and what, put context to it. They didn't have to spell it out, and it takes away, detracts from it when you're saying everything that's literally happening. I saw something a long time ago, and I don't know if it's literally true, but they said go back and take out like every other or every third line of dialogue, and people should still be able to follow the story. And it's probably better and tighter like that. Maybe not literally go through and take out every third, but if you can take out dialogue, a bunch of it, and still get the gist of the scene and what the characters' motivations are, less is generally more in screenwriting. Another issue I've seen as a reader is the emphasis on world building versus actual story. I'm sure we've all been guilty of this at some time. If you've ever written anything sci-fi or dystopian, or even in the past or the future, you feel the need to describe a lot about the world that these characters are living in so the readers can stay up to date of what's going on. But the problem is, if you focus on the world building so much, one, it becomes, it's just info dump. A lot of it doesn't actually come into play in the story itself. Okay, and the last one, I debated putting this one on there because I think it's more of a personal thing, but if you want to get into the mind of a reader, here I am. So this is one of the things I've seen a couple times, and not a ton of times, but a few times, and I'm seeing more of it with the tendency to mix genres, and that is tonal shifts in the script themselves. Like, it starts off as a horror and it ends as a thriller. I mean, a lot of movies actually do end as a thriller if you really think about it, or it starts as a bank robbery and then it becomes a horror. I'm seeing more and more of these. I can think of 3 examples, and actually 2 of them were done really well. But it's something to think of, because I think as we're mixing genres, there's tonal shifts. I know like From Dusk Till Dawn is popular. Some of them blend them really nicely, or some of them, I always suggest leaving clues or foreshadowing, like this religious or horror or occult thing is going to come up later, so let's maybe put a few little, sprinkle in some mentions of it just so you get that vibe, and it's not a complete, whiplash when the tone changes. That's just me as a reader, personal thing. A lot of people might not agree with me. Mixing genres is a good way to make new things happen. I recommend it strongly, but tonal shift is different, I think, than a genre, shift. And we just got to be careful about it. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm just saying be aware. Some people may not like it. So how do you fix some of these things? Well, watch your punctuation, your spelling, your grammar. Get some outside opinions. Get some readers. Get some writers that join writing groups or writing tribes, as I heard in Austin a lot. Get people to look over it and give you, suggestions about, make sure that easy typos are corrected and stuff. But especially when you're getting feedback, typo stuff is great, get that resolved. But when you're getting feedback, really pay attention to the content, the real meat of the story. Ask them what they didn't get, what parts they didn't like. Did they like the genre shift, the tonal shifts? Did it, make sense all the way through? I'd pay more attention to that, but still, getting feedback from other people is a great way to catch some of these easy punctuation, spelling, grammar errors. One thing I didn't mention about the dialogue, and that just came to me, watch your parentheticals. I know you can use parentheses a lot. If it's an action, put it in its own line. Don't put it in the parentheticals generally. Also, don't overuse them, because it just takes away from it. I know they say like don't direct the actors. I'm not saying that for that reason. It's more, it just distracts. And all the time when you're reading the script, As a reader, you just want the dialogue to flow. And for the qualitative ones, these are ones that are more gut feelings. My first suggestion is always make us care. Make the characters so interesting or relatable, or just make us care that this story is happening. Make there be high stakes. Make it interesting. As a reader, we're often given a bunch of files to read. I know in my last one, I think I was given 15 to read. And getting 15 scripts, many of them over 100 pages, can be a daunting task. I know what I signed up for. I enjoy doing it. I get a lot of information and experience from reading from these scripts, the good ones and the not as good ones. But when it's interesting, it's so much better of an experience for the reader. So give me some stakes. It doesn't have to be the end of the world, but I need to believe that it would be the end of the world for this character if they don't get their ultimate goal. And if it's a character I care about in a situation with high stakes, most of the time I'm invested. And like I said before, we'll forgive a lot of small errors as long as you give us something to root for, give us something interesting. Make it interesting. Next, blocks of text can be daunting. And if you look at old screenplays, even like the 70s, 80s, or before, you'll see huge chunks of text. And you'll still see them today sometimes. As a reader, like I said, we got about 15 screenplays in a row. Over the course of maybe a weekend, I'll try to knock some of these out, most of them if I can. If there's huge chunks of text, I know it's going to be a slog to get through. Even if the story's amazing, it's going to be a slog to read. It's going to take me 2 hours to read an hour and a half movie, probably. So if you want to get on the reader's good side, and I'm assuming you do if you're watching this video, break up the text. First, I'm assuming it's already going to be as minimal as possible. So I'm not going to say try to pare it down or cut out words, because I'm assuming we're already at that point where we've got it down to as few words as we need, but we're just blocking them together. Break it up with action. Break it up with, I dare say, camera angles. I try to read them, but it does make for a longer read. And in general, if you want to stay on the reader's good side, break it up and make it interesting. All right, this one's a biggie. Stick the landing. Make the ending work. Make it powerful. Make it good. Let it be undeniable from the beginning. Like, this is how this story had to end. But don't make it predictable. Don't make it wacky, where it's like, oh my God, who would have saw that coming? But it was never set up. Like, make it set up where we can see, yes, this is going to make sense. This is how it's going to end. But make it good too. Make it either fun or interesting. I try not to look down on screenplays or give them a negative review if they have downer endings, because I know there's a lot of good stories that have tragic or downer endings to get an emotional response. But if I feel like I'm getting that ending just to get an emotional response, to try to get that sympathy kind of vote, and I don't feel like they've earned it. Again, this is more of a qualitative than quantitative thing, kind of a gut feeling. I feel like they're playing with my emotions a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, at least let it be set up to where this ending makes sense. Make it inevitable, but not predictable. And if you have a good ending, that's what the reader or the viewer, if it makes it to the theaters, is going to remember. That's what they're going to take away. They're going to walk out feeling good, like, wow, that was sweet. Or they're going to walk out feeling like they've been, I don't know, abused in some way, that they've been taken advantage of. They're going to walk out as a downer. And you can have a downer ending, but still feel satisfied. And I think that's the difference. Stick the ending, make it good, make it make sense in the world that you're telling. When I get that first script, whether it's hard copy or nowadays it's usually in a PDF, that first page is going to be my invitation into that world of what this reading experience is going to be like. Not just the story, but my experience, whether I'm sitting on my couch or wherever reading it. Is this going to be a good hour and a half? Is this going to be a good 2 hours? Is this going to be a sloggy 2.5 hours? Am I going to want to put this down and regret, messing up my weekend evening for this story? So make that beginning as good as you can do it. Make it interesting. There's a lot of good scripts, a lot of good movies that start with people waking up, but it's overdone. I've done it myself, unintentionally, and then regretted it later. But make it grab somebody right away. In an action movie, a horror movie, it's usually pretty easy. You start with one of those teaser, they call them like the James Bond openings, where they're already in the middle of something. They're in the middle of a bank heist. They're in the middle of, killers chasing them through the woods. Like those openings, they get you right away usually. And as a reader, that's great. But even other movies, dramas can do it too. You just want to have something visually exciting happen, something to grab them. And as a reader, I don't want to be looking at the page number. Because if it starts getting boring, I'll look up, my eyes will drift to the page number in the corner. And if I don't start seeing double digits soon, I know I'm in for a slog. I read one recently. I don't want to give him a shout out in case he sees it, but it was a great script. I wish him the best with it because I think it's got potential. I didn't look at the page number until like 12. And I was like, I thought I was on page like 4. Like I was invested. I was reading, I'm turning the page. I was like, okay, that's a good ending. That was really good. And I looked up, I'm like 12. I'm already, halfway through Act 1 or whatever by now. I'm like, I'm in, I'm invested. I know the next few pages. And then they've earned my trust. The writer has now earned the reader's trust. And now I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go on this journey with you. And I'm in a good headspace for it because I know you've done this. Now, the rest of it could be garbage. I don't know. But those first 12 pages is usually a really good sign. I say 12 just because in that script it was 12. Other scripts it's been less or more. But when you get that sample size and you're interested in the world now, and you're further along the script than you thought. Like the next time I looked at the page number, I was probably at page 30. So now it's like, oh crap, like I'm a third of the way through the script now. Like now I gotta go, I gotta keep going. So start strong. I mentioned the other one, stick the ending. Starting strong is maybe even more important because if you don't start strong, no one's gonna make it to the ending. Make it visually interesting. Remember that you're writing a movie to be shown on a screen. Probably a giant screen, not just a television, but you want it in the movie theater. You want it at a drive-in. You're writing something big. Make it visually interesting. Not just in case it makes it to the theater and you got people, eating popcorn watching it or sitting on their couches watching it, but for the reader. Make it visually interesting for me. I want there's a screen in my mind. Please put something good on this. I want to watch this movie in my head for the next 2 hours or so, and I want to be entertained. I want to enjoy this time that I'm spending reading your script. I don't want it to be English class 101 or something. I want to enjoy it. I want to go on this adventure. Please take me on one. So make it visual. Make it, add a shooting star. Do the full moon. Though I did, side note, I found a story I wrote, and every night had a full moon. It's like it took place over the course of months, and every night was a full moon somehow, but no one ever mentioned it. Anyway, so be careful about that kind of stuff, but make it visually interesting. It doesn't mean there has to be car chases. Doesn't mean, all that action stuff. It could be, but make it visual. And if you got to a talking head scene where people are just talking to each other, have them doing something interesting. So it's at least, and trust me, if you have them doing something, it'll change the dynamic of the scene. It'll often change the way the characters relate to one another. It'll change the dialogue. One of the first writing tips I learned, maybe in middle school or high school, I don't remember who told me. I think it may have been one of my English teachers, or I read it in one of their classes, but if you're having trouble with a scene, visually at least, change the weather. It makes such a big difference because in your mind, unless it's specific to what's happening in the scene, you're probably thinking like a sunny day or starry night or something like that. And you got two people talking and it's not that interesting. Make it a downpour. Make somebody drenched. Give them an umbrella that's not working or that flies away. It changes the whole scene. It doesn't have to be a tornado. It doesn't have to be drastic. Stuff's in a puddle, anything. Make it visual, and you can play with that by just changing the weather. That was a bonus tip, I guess. So some of the fixes to fix some of these problems would be write interesting characters in interesting situations. Write visually. without sacrificing the emotional aspect of the story. Just remember that you're going to have a reader or you're going to have an audience, and try to make it as visually appealing or interesting as possible, because they're not reading a book. They may be reading a script, but they don't want to read a script. They want to see the script in their head. So regardless of the genre that you're doing, give them things to do, avoid talking heads, make some establishing shots. They're at a campfire at night and a shooting star goes over. Little things like that remind you, this is a movie. I'm not reading, a 500-page novel. I'm not reading an instruction manual. I'm reading a movie, and I'm seeing it in my head because this author is painting that picture. And that's what gets the reader into it. They want you to paint that picture. They don't want to pass on your script. They want to recommend it. Trust me, when I talk about gatekeepers in one of the other videos, no one wants to say no. Making it visual, increasing the stakes, interesting characters, and have them talk like real people in your world. Not real people in our world, but in the world of your story. Do you notice anything I didn't say? Things that I didn't put on my list as a reader that I didn't want. I didn't say don't include song titles. The reader doesn't care. They don't care. If you need it for your story, put it. The use of caps. Way too much can be distracting, but as a reader, generally don't care. It doesn't affect the context of your story. Don't tell actors how to act. Don't tell directors how to direct. Don't use camera angles. I didn't say any of those things. You know why? Because as a reader, I don't care. I really don't care. I want you to paint that story. And if by using those things in a necessary way, not in an overused, distracting way, but if using those things, we see camera angles, POVs, I even mentioned I use POVs, I use we see. If that helps you paint the picture in your head, in my head, in a succinct, concise way, and it makes it visually interesting and easy to tell and looks good on the page, do it. We'd rather have that than some drawn out block of text to explain something you could have said in we see. In conclusion, I can't say if you do these things that you're going to win a contest or advance or get attention from a producer. But I can say that if you do these things, your reader will have a better experience. And if you want to advance or move on or get a recommend, the one thing we can control is trying to give the reader a good experience. And if you do that, they will think highly of the experience and of you. And I think your chances of advancing are definitely going to improve. So I recommend these things. And as a reader, I appreciate it when people give me a product that's an enjoyable read. I mean, ultimately, that's what we all want, right? To have a story that entertains someone. So, hope this helps. Have a good night, and I'll see you next time.